The following is a live sports event featuring the Abernathy Antelopes or Lady Lopes. This broadcast is a presentation of the Abernathy Sports Network and may not be altered or used in its entirety without the written consent from the Abernathy Sports Network. Today's broadcast is made possible by the fine supporters: MC Master Roofing and Construction, South Plains Auto Ranch, Clark Riley Insurance, Haverhill Funeral Home and Flower Shop, First Baptist Church, JC's Refrigeration, StormGuard, Plains Land Bank, Nutrient Ag Solutions, the Junkin Farmers Market, MZJ Variety Shop, Shallowater, Rooted Revival Hair Salon, Chance Rocha, Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Code 3 Soda Shop and Meat Market, Lasso Electric, Webb Vision Center, Hill Vet, WTX Diesel, West Texas Brick and Stone, Rural Roots Medical Clinic, the Farmers Cooperative Compress, First State Bank, DB Media, Ty Horsford Realtor. Again, thank you for tuning in tonight's live sports event. It will begin shortly.
And good evening, Abernathy, Texas, and good evening, fans of the Abernathy Antelopes and Lady Lopes. Sometimes Wednesdays, and it's kind of been one of those days. And so we're only about 20 minutes late getting on the air for our live viewers, but it's nothing technology related. It's user error on this Wednesday night. But good evening and welcome inside Outside the Box, episode 7, as we get to dive into all things Abernathy and all things Antelopes and Lady Lopes on this week's edition of Outside the Box. And we are glad to have you with us, Chance. It is an off week. But that doesn't mean that there are plenty of things to chat about, and we will just jump right in and start kind of our typical start of the show, a look around AISD. We'll get into football. We'll get into another exciting road win here in just a little bit, but we're off and running a packed show. We have an opportunity to talk to offensive coordinator Coach Keith Bloskus later in the show, and some other things for you as well. But just jumping right in, Chance, this last week was the annual FCA Fields of Faith event. Always a big event that a lot of our students that are involved in FCA attend, and they did that this week, and actually have a
couple pictures
to show you, because this year was kind of in coordination with that morning here in Abernathy was the See You at the Pole, the annual See You at the Pole. And so kind of a See You at the Pole in the morning, and then the students go to Lubbock in the evening for the area-wide Fields of Faith event, which is always a big deal that FCA puts on every year.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, Ty, and not just to mention for the kids, but also just to have that experience to see all the local towns coming to that. And it's hosted at Texas Tech, and I know all the students that went to see you at the pole that morning. I believe all the high school students, they loaded them all up on a bus and they took them all. And then all the junior high students, most of them went with their churches and stuff like that. But I know my daughter went. She was excited. Najee Kennedy spoke. She talked about how she thought God had this great plan for her, and she didn't realize it was going to be to impact lives through softball. Something as simple that she loved, and she's able to do that. And I believe Baron Morton spoke as well. So just for them to have that opportunity, not only to go somewhere and hear an athlete to that aspect and see them speak, but to hear them speak about their faith and their Christian values. So pretty cool.
And the Abernathy Ministerial Alliance, they're kind of the one that spearheads the See You at the Pole. It's mostly student-led, if anything, but just a really cool event. Obviously, as you saw with those pictures there, lots of our students taking part in that event, and that is always good to see. Chance, our twirlers and color guard, they're at it again. They had a competition, their first one of the season, on Saturday. Chance, I know you have a daughter that is involved in some of that, but both twirlers and color guard do a fantastic job, and really Miss Lease does an incredible job with these two groups of young ladies. They always compete at these contests very, very well, but you had the third place 2A color guard line, the first place and outstanding small school twirling line, first place and outstanding middle school twirling line, and outstanding middle school twirling soloist Kimbry Abel. And so hardware all around for the color guard and the twirlers for both the middle school and the high school.
Yeah, middle school and high school. And like you said, they put in hours just the same way the band does, and they practice their routines, and they go through all the things. And there was a lot of teams there that had them broken up into big school and small school. But at the same time, there were still tons of schools there competing. So excited for them. I know my daughter and the color guard crew were excited, and those twirling groups, it was pretty cool to see them kind of sweep that competition and win, and then also for Kimbry to get that outstanding soloist. So that was pretty exciting for them for sure.
And they will have other competitions as the season goes. I know there's opportunities to compete even at the state level. And it looks like the Abernathy group will probably make a run at that in all likelihood. They tend to do that every year. And Chance, I feel like every week, switching gears to just the middle school, the middle school is always doing something outside of the classroom.
Oh, yeah.
To prepare students for work environments, work fields, other interests, learning how to serve, importance of community involvement, all the things. And this last week, the middle school students attended a career exploration event that is put on by the Texas Workforce Commission. Students got to hear from different people in different lines of work and just kind of hear a couple of different speakers speak just about dreaming big, and the possibilities are endless. And so I think anytime that you can get your students involved in some of those things, you're just kind of helping guide them to hopefully at some point, not that they have to know at this point, figure out what their future is going to look like.
Well, what their future is going to look like and what careers are available for certain, avenues and things they may not even have thought of. So the earlier you get them exposed to that, the better off that they're going to have that opportunity to kind of go down that pathway, Ty. And I think that, when I was in middle school, I know I was for sure one thing. I was like baseball player, firefighter, maybe.
Absolutely.
Like the things that all the boys, want to be, just, but also knowing like the reality of it, that the real careers out there are your police officers, firefighters, your engineers, your architects, your those kind of things. And so for them to be able to get the real life experience and hear from somebody in those career fields is super impactful for sure for those junior high students.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chance, obviously we're going to have plenty of ag stuff and FFA and 4-H stuff to talk about coming up in the weeks to come and later in the semester, but they've kind of got their big fundraising event this weekend.
Yeah, they got their big fundraiser, that Purple Banner Bash, and I know that's a big hit that they put on, and in conjunction with kind of like the county ag boosters, all that kind of stuff. And so it's a big happening. It's a big to do. They have I believe a silent auction, all kinds of things that they have there, and then just a nice dinner and stuff like that. So I know plenty of Abernathy locals will be there at the dinner on Saturday for sure.
And I know the majority of that money raised goes to for Abernathy exhibitors in both FFA and 4-H that show animals. They make a sale at the county stock show. It goes to help support those students that do that as well. So a really good thing to support. If you're not doing anything on Saturday night, there's an opportunity to do that. Get with one of the ag kids, and they can get you tickets for that. I'm sure you could also show up and buy tickets at the door. I don't know that, but I'm assuming that you probably can. And so
better go support it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have Ty may need some of that money when Parker Horsford shows her pig.
Absolutely. We're jumping into the show ring this year, so stories to come. We'll see if they're good stories or they may just be stories. I don't know, but looking forward to that for sure. As we kind of transition, Chance, and take a look at some things going on around our campuses in the sports world, now that we've taken a look outside the box, cross country, they are gearing up for their biggest meet of the year on Monday.
It is.
They will be competing in their district cross-country meet. That is Monday, kind of midday Mondays. I think you've got the varsity boys beginning at noon, varsity girls at 12:30, and then the JV girls at 1. Obviously, this meet is the one that determines who advances on to regionals or whose cross-country season comes to an end. And they kind of had their big prep meet in Lubbock this past weekend. And talking to Coach Carrie Carlisle today, Chance, she was just really excited about how well the kids ran. They're putting forth personal best times almost every single week, and just doing the things that you need to do to be competitive. Varsity girls, they ended up placing 5th overall as a team, which is really good at that meet. Because, again, you've got schools from all classifications. You had Shorter, Bree Shorter, finishing 14th and earning a medal. Gabby Cruz, 20th, earning a medal. And then you had Camilla Yates and Amaya Delgado. She actually told me that they finished 5 seconds apart. They came in one after the other, and they were just off the medal stand. But she said when those runners can run together like that and kind of push each other, it tends to be when they are more successful. And so a good job for the varsity girls.
For sure, good job for them. And, that race, Ty, May Simmons is just intimidating in
That
general.
dead gun heel.
Even if they go run it, and I know they go run sprints or they run the hills or whatever, it's just intimidating because you've been there before and just the terrain and everything that you see there. But it's intimidating. But I think that them having that ability to go practice there and having run there now, I think it makes it a little bit more settling when they go to that district track meet that's coming up. And so varsity girls did well. The JV girls, like you said, they kind of had some injuries and things happen, Ty, but they finished well. Alexis Brashears was their top finisher. And then varsity boys kind of led this year by a freshman, Kingston Awful. He finished ninth and medaled, followed by Micah Cortez and Nash Rigler. They just missed medaling, but talking to Coach Carlisle, she mentioned that all three of those boys have a shot of possibly going to regionals as individuals. They don't have enough for a boys team, but all three of those individuals are definitely, like you said, just shaving, time off their runs. And if they continue to do that, they're definitely going to look to compete at regionals most likely.
Yeah, and that's what Coach Carlisle said. She said, if they could have found one more boy that would have been competitive, I mean, those boys might have had a chance to go win the district meet, possibly as a team, but doing a great job nonetheless. And Chance, we should have led our show with this tonight. We said last week that it is going to happen. These volleyball girls have been working their tails off. Coach Kat Thompson and all of her assistants. Again, starting a program is so hard, and they're in a district with some pretty competitive small school volleyball powers, but it finally happens for the Lady Lopes last night in an exciting fashion in 5 sets. The Abernathy Lady Lopes win the Battle of Antelope Supremacy. They get their first ever district win as a program on the road as they beat Post in 5 sets. They win the first set 25-22. They drop set 2 18-25. They win set 3 25-23. They lose set 4 14-25. And then in a 5th set that goes to 15, and you've got to win by 2, they get the 16-14 victory in set 5. And a huge shout out to Coach Thompson and the Abernathy Lady Lope volleyball team.
Shout out to them and congrats to those girls. I know they've been working hard and they've had victories.
It's their 6th win of the year for sure.
But to get their first, it really makes you think like, okay, now we're here. We can do this. We can compete, and that's just exciting for them. And just continue to build success and stack those W's. So congrats to those girls for sure. So the JV girls are still competing well, Todd. They competed against ropes and posts as well. They're going out there competing. And I'll tell you what, those junior high girls,
they're good.
They're good. Both sets of them. I was talking to some moms earlier today, and I think that those 7th grade girls are trying to make it a goal to go undefeated all season.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think it is, and I think the 8th grade girls are kind of like, man, I wish we would have had a loss. So now there's some competition, and that's good for them to motivate each other for sure.
Well, and I was going to say that 7th grade team is going to be really tested the weekend of October 11th. They are going to the shallow water tournament, and I was talking to a dad today and said that a 7th and 8th grade shallow water volleyball program, they've beaten some JVs this year, and so. If they come out of that unscathed,
either way, it's
good competition, absolutely, and having a fantastic season. Chance won't spend a lot of time on it. We'll have basketball segments down the road. It's hard to believe that we're even thinking about basketball, but just today, both the Lady Lope and Antelope basketball programs released their upcoming schedules. Lady Lopes obviously have a new head coach in Adam Zapata, and they open their season on November the 8th by hosting that perennial power from Nazareth, the Swiftettes, where when they don't win a state championship, the season is a disappointment.
I'm telling you.
In Nazareth. But some other highlights on their schedule, non-district matchups, a trip to Canyon Randall. They will compete in the Slayton, Nazareth, and Caprock tournaments. And they also have a return trip to Clarendon, which is always really good on the girls' side.
Yeah, for sure. And that Nazareth team, just going to that tournament, playing them to start the season, and you may say, oh, Nazareth, they're just 1-8, whatever. But when they show up and they have their sweats with every single star for the state championship they won.
And not enough room on their wall for state championship banners. And
they got the sweats, and they can't even fit it on their back. It's going down the side of their pant legs and everything. It's probably, but that's just a perennial power program, and so that's a good job for, I know some of those things may have been pre-finalized last year because usually you kind of go on a 2-year rotation, but to get some of those games in, that's going to be a good test for sure for those Lady Lopes starting the season.
And on the boys' side, they'll wait a few weeks to start their season, obviously, with football still in full swing, but they'll open their season on November 24th. And Chance, our boys basketball team should be really good, I think, this season. They open their season on the November 24th at Littlefield. Highlights of their schedule include they will also be in 3 tournaments, Nazareth, Plains, and the Caprock tournaments. And they've also got non-district matchups against Muleshoe. And then I noticed this one, Chance, a neutral site game right before Christmas in Lubbock against Farwell. And Farwell always a good program on the boys' side. But it should be fun when basketball rolls around.
It should be fun. Obviously, with the boys, you kind of want to say, hey, let's not think about that so far. Let's hopefully we have a long football season. But just to kind of preview it a little bit, and I think we'll be good, Ty. We got some guys that they didn't play last year that are going to be there for coming off of injuries, and I think that's going to be exciting for sure.
Yep. So let's kind of do our football week in review, if you will. And Abernathy manages to only get 1 win over the last Thursday and Friday against the Friona Chieftains. Both 7th and 8th grade, they kind of ran into a buzzsaw. 7th grade loses 55-0. The 8th grade falls short 48-6. Both of those games on the road. And then Chance, the JV, the game was competitive.
It was.
I know they had an injury that hurt them in that ball game probably, and they were kind of playing from behind the whole game. But 20-16 on the JV side. Friona gets the best of the Antelopes.
Yeah, 20-16. And it was a hard-fought game back and forth, and injury to their quarterback, Cutter Johnson. Kingston Awful came in and tried to steer the ship back and get the lead back. But, at that time, when you haven't taken that many reps under center, it can be tough. But Friona was a tough little team. But luckily, Cutter, it's just going to be a little bit. But, man, I'll tell you what, not only with JV, but again, we'll talk about it as we get into the varsity, man. The injury bug has been something that's been biting hard at these Antelopes.
It has, but Abernathy on Friday night, and I think the kind of mantra for this Abernathy Antelope football team, Chance, is starting to be just grit, toughness, overcoming adversity, and and you'll hear Coach Bloskus talk about it in a little bit, but the kind of that next man up mentality. They go on the road, playing a good Friona team, a team that was battle tested in Friona. You jump out quick. You score the first 2 touchdowns of that game in the first quarter to take the 14-0 lead, Chance. And you kind of are able to keep Friona at arm's length the rest of the way. It wasn't a blowout. You get the 34-21 win. It was competitive, but you really felt like you were in control of that contest from the get-go. And kind of the unfortunate news is that you are going to be without Mr. Consistent, Colt Micheletti, for the remainder of the season. He goes down. Kind of a scary moment, a long pause in the action. Long story short, he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
He's okay, but just due to some multiple concussion protocol and different things, he's not going to be able to come back for a while, and will probably miss the remainder of football season.
Yeah, the remainder of football season. And obviously those things can essentially be reevaluated, but it's looking like not likely to be back this season, but just happy that he's okay. Like you said, when he's down there on the field and you're seeing the ambulance come out, and you're just hoping for everything. And not a good scenario for a kid to get hurt in any circumstance, but best case scenario for him, that he's able to kind of to walk away from that with a minimal, like you said, a concussion and nothing too major. And so Mr. Consistent, a guy that kind of was the workhorse for you, it's going to be tough. But like you said, in that instance, you play the majority of all the second half, the majority of second quarter without him, and you continue to, like you said, build that lead. You had some other guys step up. Malachi Walters, Jagger Wiley played a heck of a ball game, Caden Bird. And so you had 403 yards of total offense, 269 in the air, 252 rushing. But you gave up 252 rushing, which essentially can be a concern.
But you also are getting stops when you have to.
You are getting stops when you have to. So that's kind of been the telltale tape of our defense. It's kind of a bend, don't break mentality, and then you get some takeaways. You get a fumble, a strip fumble by Reyes on kickoff, and then you have the interception by Aiden Villarreal, who had to step in for an injured Colt Micheletti at safety on defense. And so you had some guys step up in a time, like you said, that A on the helmet, I guess it's just going to stand for adversity this year, Ty, and we're just going to have to keep grinding and keep working through everything.
Well, and Chance, I think you're going to have to see – you talk about the 269 yards through the air. I think you're going to come from more of you were a pretty well-balanced team throwing and passing because you had that 150 yards a pop from Colt Micheletti.
Or at least 100 for sure.
Or 100, and I think he was averaging close to 150 per game. I think you're going to have to rely on the arm of your junior quarterback, Jagger Wiley. You've still got some playmakers at the receiver position. Not to say that you're not going to mix in some run and be able to do that to an extent, but I think you're going to be most dangerous through the air.
Well, you definitely are, and you mentioned it. Typically Jagger was throwing the ball between 18 to 24, 25 times. It's probably going to be throwing the ball about 25 times consistently, and you're probably going to rush the ball 15 to 18, and that's not going to probably be one guy where you had Colt rushing 15 to 18 times. It's probably going to be 10 carries for one guy, and that's just us speculating. We don't know.
You may hope that you can get to 100 yards rushing as a team.
Yes.
I think if you do that, I think that's probably a successful night on the ground from here on out.
And I think you're going to have guys mixing guys up in the backfield. Jagger's probably going to get some carries, whether it be design quarterback runs or, a rush when the pressure comes to him or whatever it may be. And then you're going to have guys like Caden Bird, Malachi Walters, possibly Braden Stafford, Aiden Villarreal probably get some more work back there. But it's, we talked about it. Some guys are going to have to step up and kind of answer the bell. And it's hard to imagine. I mean, you have, and we talked about this, Ty, your 4 athletic sophomores that you have on the team that you were looking at possibly being some standouts, all 4 of them go down. Mm-hmm. And you lose 2 to 8 knee injuries and 2 to, head and neck injuries. And it's just, obviously you want what's best in the health for those kids, but it's just tough for a team that was kind of looking forward to having them out there on the field for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chance, when you take as we kind of put a bow on the Friona win, when you take a look at some of those standout performances for the Antelopes, Wiley, he just continues to play well. He hasn't really had a bad game yet. 19 of 27, 269 through the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's one thing that Coach Blaskus talks about here about him in just a second. He's avoided the mistakes. Yep. He's not turning the ball over, so he's doing a good job there. Our MC Master Roofing and Construction Player of the Game in that Friona contest, Caden Bird. You knew that was coming. 143 receiving yards on 9 catches, a couple of touchdowns for Bird, probably your most versatile offensive weapon for sure. And then you have Minfield, 70 yards receiving on 5 catches, and then Ryan Hillis in the trenches leads the team with 13 tackles for that defense that holds Friona to 21 points. And so that's kind of a look at some individual numbers for the Antelopes.
Individual numbers, and, there was a couple plays that Bird made, Ty. I mean, and even Minfield to start the game off. He kind of had some miscommunication right to start the game, and then him and Jagger got on the same page, and a couple plays later, he went for 40 yards and a touchdown. So 70 of his yards came on, or almost 40 of his yards came on one receiving touchdown. But, yeah, Bird just kind of mixing them up. So other notable things around the district, Ty, Hell Center handled business, took down Floydada, a team that's just reeling.
I feel sorry for Floyd.
I do too. They win 62-8. Alton beats Vega 28-0. Not that we're keeping score, but I called that one. You said
you did. I said it was going to be Vega, and Vega got shut out. So
Farwell kind of the upset of the week. I can't believe there wasn't more talked about it, but they kind of upset Post. Post goes on the road and drops to Farwell 25-24. We did hear murmurs that Post had some guys that didn't play, whatever it may be. But, hey, Abernathy only suited up 22, and we went to Friona and got the win. So.
Yep. And Post, you've got them coming off of that emotional win the week before against an undefeated Slayton team. You never know kind of maybe what happened there. Yeah. But Farwell, we've talked about how they could be sneaky good. Yeah. And sounds like they put it all together. And really that was a game that Farwell led from the get-go. Yeah. And Post kind of made a late run at him trying to sneak one out again. But Farwell holds on for the win.
They definitely did. And then, I mentioned it. We thought it was going to be a Lubbock Christian win, but we didn't think it was going to be a blowout. It was a blowout. They put it on New Deal 43-0, and then New Home stays on the roll. Ty, they win at home 30-3 over Roscoe.
Yeah, and so and that's kind of a good kind of preface, if you will. Normally we would spend some time this week previewing Friday night's matchup. We don't have a matchup on Friday night. And so all of the teams in our district are off. And so we thought we would spend a little bit of time, because we're nerds like that, and we just like to dive into the ins and out of what the district is going to look like. But previewing the upcoming football district just a little bit. And Chance, I think what you're going to have even more so than a year ago, I think those top 3 spots are wide open. I think they are completely up for grabs. We're going to talk about kind of how we think it might shake out in just a little bit, but it's going to be a very competitive district race, especially the top 3 or 4 teams.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be one of those, when you go to New Home, New Deal, and Post, and New Deal comes here, but that's kind of your top of the district, and then you have Alton and Floydada kind of at the bottom half. But still, Alton's a capable team. Floydada,
I mean, they might.
They might figure it out, but that's definitely something we'll get to. But for sure, that's one thing that we got to visit with offensive coordinator Coach Keith Bloskas, kind of talk about what he saw from his team in the preseason, how they've grown, and what he expects coming up in district play.
So without further ado, here is Coach Keith Bloskas.
And here we are today with Coach Bloskas. Coach, thanks for taking some time with us today on Outside the Box.
Yeah, glad to be here.
I know it's been a good start to the season. You had the rough first game. You travel all the way to Stratford, get rained out, and you kind of dealt with some adversity. Kind of talk about that, what that looks like from an injury standpoint, off the field stuff. What kind of character have you seen built throughout your team with all the things y'all gone through this week?
Yeah, that's something, we were talking about in the coach's office this week. It seems like every week since that week 1 all the way through, and even before that in the scrimmages, we've had some type of adversity, from injuries to off the field things to just everything. And so it's kind of been that next man up mentality. No one's made any excuses. It's just one of those deals. You kind of like life. You have things throughout the season you have to deal with, and it's just kind of taking it day by day and week by week, and just coming out to practice. The kids have done, a great job of not making those excuses and coming out here and working hard each and every day. And I think you saw that the last few weeks, despite the numbers, I think we had less than 25 suit up last week, and still there was no excuses. We came out there and played hard and got after a good Friona team that was physical, and made a good long road trip down there and had in my opinion, one of our complete games of the year so far. So it was a good way to end up the last part of non-district and go into next week.
Yeah, for sure. It was exciting. And we noticed that, at the game on Friday, you had some guys in some different spots and different positions. And so I like the fact that you said that next man up mentality, like, hey, you're representing the A, you go out there and do your job.
Exactly.
So you kind of mentioned that it was last preseason game this past Friday. You're going to the off week. Heading into district, what do you think the key to success for this team moving forward is?
Yeah, on the offensive side of it, number one, we got to continue to do a good job of taking care of the football, and that's something I felt like we've done a pretty good job for the first 5 games, is limit those turnovers, because to me that's the great equalizer is taking care of the football. No matter who the opponent is, if you take care of the football, you're going to be all right. And so that's one of the things we take pride in, and that we've done a good job this year. We got to continue to do that. We got to continue to do the little things. There's still some little things that we can work on that we do this week during the bye week. There's taking some time, in practice and saying, hey, what are some little things that we can work on that we might not necessarily get a chance to do or kind of overlook, throughout the a regular week, when we have a game. So that's something that we can do this week and just kind of take it game by game, one game at a time, and have that 1-0 mentality that whoever it is each and every week, we're just going to try to beat that opponent that week and not look ahead too far. So
Yeah, for sure. And I know that's something that y'all had talked about as a coaching staff, kind of like win the day, keep stacking days, keep stacking weeks. And so just paying attention to the details and keeping things rolling. So, being the OC, your QB Jagger, he's been a really emotional leader on and off the field, whether it's on offense or defense. Can you kind of talk about how he's progressed and how he stepped into that role this year as a second-year starter? And are there others that you see are kind of been leaders out there on the field as well?
Yeah, starting with him, I know it's always tough when you're a younger class, a younger player like he was last year as a sophomore and stepping into that role. And anytime you have a huge senior class like we did last year, and then you're the sophomore, it's tough, trying to be that guy, when you have a senior led team like that. But he's done a great job. One thing he's done is he's gotten in the weight room, and throughout this off season, he's gotten stronger. He's gotten faster, out here on the track. And in everything he does, I think you can see that. And that's one thing that we've been able to do offensively now is, he's been able to run the football. And then if something's not there on a designed pass, he's kind of tucked it and scrambled. And that's part of his game that he's improved on. That's been big for us, extended plays and extended drives. And like you said, he's played some defensive snaps now too, and made some big plays the other night. He's also been a big key in our special teams. He kind of didn't do that last week, kind of resting up his leg a little bit, but he's kicked, he's punted, he's kind of in all three phases stepped in and been a good leader for us in all three phases, and that's been huge. As far as other guys that have stepped up, I think you got to look up front. Our two tackles on the offensive side, Jake Harkey and Ryan Hillis, they've done a great job of going into the year. We thought that might be kind of our depth-wise, kind of our weaker point, from the kids that we graduated from last year. But those two guys have taken some of those young kids, by the wing a little bit and kind of said, all right, let's go. This is how it's done. And I felt like, last few games, that's kind of been one of our strong points is those guys up front. And it's been led by Jake and Ryan, leading those young guys up front there. So
that's exciting. Yeah, for sure. And, giving credit to those big guys up front. They don't typically get a lot of credit, especially on the offensive side. On the defensive side, they do, but giving those offensive guys credit. And that's important because they know if they bring those younger guys along, that goes a long way as the season progresses for sure. So, district is lining up. It's probably going to be pretty competitive. New Home lost some people. Post is kind of reloaded, but they dropped the game to Farwell. Who would you say the top 3 or 4, the teams that you might be the ones to beat in the district?
Yeah, I know.
Besides Abernathy.
Besides Abernathy, yeah. You look ahead just to next week. I think that's the thing that we have in mind right away is New Home. That's the team that's been the last 3 or 4 years as they've grown and made the jump to 11-man. They've really been one of the stronger 2A programs in this area. And so, number one, they're going to be tough. They've changed things up offensively a little bit this year. And so what they do, a little more downhill running, option style stuff is going to be different, something that we're going to have to prepare for. And they're always going to play tough. And going over to their place now this year, that first district game on the road is going to be a big one. Week 2, like you said, New Deal, it seems like they've got things rolling a little bit better this year. They've stayed healthy, which was a key for them this year, as opposed to last year. And then across the board, and you can't overlook Olton, and then Floyd Ada there as well. You got to take it week by week, and then obviously week 10 there, Post, they're always going to be good. That going back from 2014, my first year in Post, and the first game when I got to Post was against Abernathy, so it's always kind of been a Post and Abernathy rival, and it doesn't matter the records, you can throw them out the window. That's one of those games that's always going to be competitive with the tradition that those two teams always bring. And so top to bottom, it's going to be tough. But I think if we just take it one week at a time, and then prepare each week for that opponent, then I think we'll just be okay. So
that's exciting, Coach. I appreciate you taking the time with us today on Outside the Box, and good luck the rest of the way.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
And there you have it, a special thank you to Abernathy offensive coordinator Keith Bloskus. And Chance, super thankful for him spending some time with us. And you kind of heard him talk about a plethora of things. He talked about the fight this team had shown kind of the next man up mentality that we've talked about. And if Abernathy is going to be successful in district play, that's kind of what it's going to have to look like. I thought it was really good to hear him talk about Jagger's leadership, but also from some of those guys up front as well. Luckily, you've kept those healthy. Those are kind of the core of your leadership, and Jagger, Harkey, and Hillis up front, kind of some of your veterans. Mm-hmm. And I think those are guys you're going to have to lean on pretty heavily as you hit district play.
Well, I think just the fact that he, of course, he's seen Jagger's growth, him being able to the play calling, the avoiding the mistakes, but also for him to give credit where credit's due, because that was a place where they were worried about depth in the O-line and the defensive line. And just the fact that Harkey and Hillis have both been kind of taking those younger guys and bringing them along and saying, hey, we're going to go as far as we're going to go together. It can't just rely on one unit. It can't just be the upperclassmen. And so far, we've seen those younger, the sophomores and the juniors on the team step up and play a big role because, it's a lot different. And we've talked about this a lot, Ty. You have those guys coming from JV or coming from 8th grade. That's a big jump.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Because you're not competing against a 14 or 15-year-old. Now you're getting pushed around by a 17 or 18-year-old, and just they may have a couple years of experience and kind of know some different tricks of the trade and things like that. And so just the fact that, he mentioned those senior-led group and how they're, mentoring those younger boys. So it's exciting.
And you kind of heard him talk about what to expect in district play, and to kind of play off that a little bit, Chance. I think you've got a top 3 or 4 and then kind of bottom tier as well. But I think those top 3, I really truly think the top 3 in this district, at this point you could flip a coin, and I don't think anybody would think you're crazy if you pick any of the 3 to win district. And of course we're talking Abernathy, Post, and New Home. Probably the 3 favorites in the district. That's not to say that a New Deal or Olton can't surprise some people and make a little bit of noise. But as we kind of break this down just a little bit, Chance, coming into the season, and I don't know that it's fully changed, but maybe a little more wide open than what it was. Yeah. You had a Post team that climbed all the way up to number 2 in the rankings before losing to Farwell this past Friday night. They were kind of the blowing away favorite to start the season. They've dealt with some adversity just like Abernathy has. They one of their stars got hurt. I know they've had some guys on the line miss. And that's kind of the bread and butter for Post football, is beat you in the trenches up front, rely on a strong running game. So they did drop a game, which if anything, I think that shows you that maybe they're not invincible.
Yeah.
That they are human and you can play with them. But then kind of outside that, you've got those next ones, Abernathy and New Home, and even maybe a New Deal, who they're the one team that has actually stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Which that was their struggle a year ago. And they've been a little bit better so far this season as well.
They've been a little bit better, and and talking about it, you're correct. Post was, if you look at just the AJ and you look at Dave Campbell's, I believe everyone had Post first. Some of them had New Deal or New Home second, and Abernathy third. Some of them had Abernathy or New Deal or New Home third, and so and then like you said, followed by Olton and Floydada. But the AJ did just release. They believe that New Home's on the rise. Posts kind of stumble a little bit going into district. So AJ just released. They're picking New Home to win the district, Post to be second, Abernathy third, New Deal to be in that 4th spot, followed by Olton and Floydada. And I'm kind of like you. I can see it kind of going.
I mean, I don't think that would surprise anybody.
It wouldn't. I think the one outlier that, New Deal was kind of seen as to bounce back this year, I don't know if that's going to be true. I think they're going to be fighting for that 3rd or 4th spot. We've talked about it. I can see it to where, we come in and, you go and run the table and you win every district ball game, or you can go out there and be 3-2. And I think the end thing is who stays healthy and who shows up on Friday night. I mean, you're still talking about 15 to 18-year-old boys. You never know what can happen. So
And when you kind of just briefly break down these teams, you've got a New Deal team that, according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football in 2A, ranked number 54. They're 2-2 on the season. They've got wins over Roosevelt and Sundown. They've lost, I believe, to Lubbock Christian and maybe Slayton, which, again, no harm, no foul. Those are two really good ball clubs. And the thing about New Deal, I don't think they're a team that's going to wow you. No. They're just kind of what you see is what you get. But if they don't beat themselves, they've got an opportunity to win games.
Yeah, and they're going to be a run-heavy team as well, and that's one thing that it can scare you because that's kind of where you've been vulnerable. But they're not going to toss it around a bunch. Maybe throw it 10 to 12 times a game. Rely on the run, but nothing fancy. I mean, they're going to run a mixture of probably 5 to 10 plays and give them to you in different looks. And I think the biggest thing that we have is them coming to Abernathy, possibly looking for that revenge game, and kind of even in the stakes as we kind of enter back into what's likely going to probably be a district rivalry for a few years to come. So.
Yep. And then, Chance, I think really so far kind of the surprise in the district with a coaching change and some different things going on in the offseason in New Home. I think a lot of people thought the Leopards might be down a little bit this year, that it might be somewhat of a rebuilding year. That really has not been the case so far for New Home. They've climbed all the way up to number 19 in Class 2A. They lost that first game of the season to Cooper Liberty. You can kind of throw that out the window because Cooper Liberty is a really good football team at the Class 4A level. But they've kind of reeled off 4 straight wins since then. They are 4-1. They really haven't been tested a whole lot since then. They blew out a decent ropes team. So you've got New Home, a team that they're going to run a different offense. It's going to be more of a triple option type offense, which sometimes can be difficult to defend if it's ran well. But it sounds like, from the outside looking in, you've got some buy-in with the new coaching staff and kind of how that's played out, and New Home's looking really good.
Yeah, the new coaching staff, I believe, Coach Ward, I think their head coach is still there. He brought on a guy that they coached together or went to school together, so there's some camaraderie there, and I think their boys have bought into it. They're kind of one of those teams that's going to be rah-rah, let's control things on defense and then also control the line of scrimmage up front, and it's worked well for them. I would agree. Haven't really faced a lot of tough teams outside of that first game. I don't really know how tough Ropes is. They were one of the favorites, but obviously they're a smaller school than us too, and so that's really the only one on paper that you would look at and say, hey, that was probably pretty competitive, but they're still winning ball games.
And winning bad.
Yeah, and winning handily for sure. And so they're one of those ones, we knew it going in last year. You're starting the season with them. You're going to start the season with them again, and it's going to be at their house. So they're going to come out again too, looking for that revenge, not used to losing district ball games. And so
when we beat them last year, that broke I don't remember what the number was, but some crazy district win streak. Yep.
It was ridiculous. I think it was like 20-plus games. And so that's like 4 or 5 years of not losing a district ball game.
Yep.
So,
well, the thing you have about New Home, Chance, they're a program that knows how to win. They don't lose much. They're very competitive. They don't settle for losing. Yeah. And so when they do lose, you expect them to come back and battle and be a tough out the next time you play them.
Yeah, for sure. And even even losing to us last year, it was not an easy one at all. And so, but again, that's just part of it. Them coming up a class, they've dealt with some of that too. But again, when you have a winning tradition, it's kind of one of those things where you can motivate those boys to get back on track.
If there's a team in this district, Chance, that can play spoiler, it might be the Olton Mustangs. Olton was a team that, to be honest with you, coming into the year, I thought was going to be better. I thought that they might compete for a number 2 or number 3 spot potentially in the district, because it seemed like they were a team on the rise a year ago. They've struggled at times. They do get the big 4-touchdown win against Vega, so maybe they right the ship a little bit. Again, I think at best they're probably the 4th best team in this district. Yeah. I could see them just being on the outside looking in. But again, on any given night, if the cards fall right, they're a team that could keep somebody from winning a district or making the playoffs altogether.
Yeah, for sure. They could sneak into that 4 spot or knock somebody down to the 2 spot or whatever that may be. And they too, I believe, they have a new head coach, but they have some continuity. I believe he was the OC from last year, and he just kind of moved into that role. And so they kept some of the same things, but still changing head coaches, he can change the whole mindset of the crew. But they're a team, Ty, that I thought too was going to kind of take a step forward. Maybe not vow for a district championship, but I think they're still young and maybe they're still trying to figure things out. But I agree with you on that one. Dave Campbell's has them number 74, and those are all computer rankings. They analyze all 103 teams, and they have them kind of at the bottom tier, but that's just because they haven't had too many wins this year, and they've kind of struggled in some games for sure. So,
and then you've got Florida, Chance. We've talked about them, and out of 103 teams in the state in Class 2A, they're ranked at 100, according to Dave Campbell's. It's just Coach Compton. It's just been a uphill battle for him in Florida the last couple of years, and they've got some athletes, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense from the outside looking in why they can't be more competitive on the football field. But I think Florida is a team that even if any of these other teams have an off night, I think Florida is still going to have a hard time winning the ball game in district.
I agree 100%. I mean, they haven't scored too many points. I think the most they scored in the game is 12, and they're averaging giving up probably over 40. And so not any kind of success that you've seen, and I hate it for them. And that's a team that they had some big rivalry games. They've had a tradition of being a pretty good team, but for the last probably 5 to 10 years, they've just been down.
Yeah, and then according to those computer rankings, Chance, by Dave Campbell's Texas Football, Abernathy checks in at number 27. Again, kind of an up and down season for Abernathy. They start with the no contest at Stratford. That game wasn't going particularly well. When it gets rained out, Stratford kind of had the momentum in that game. You bounce back. You've won some good ball games. You've won some shootouts. You had Littlefield on the ropes at Littlefield. The lights got turned out on you, literally and figuratively. Yep. And of course, that's the game that you have. You have injuries, and Case goes down. We all know kind of that whole story, and so it's kind of been a mixed bag of tricks for Abernathy. I think everyone. I know I feel very admirable about the way that they have battled, the way that they have fought, the way that they just continue to press forward. And I think it's going to be a team that continues to do that. Yeah. I absolutely do. The question is health the rest of the way, because you're literally, we said this before the season started, but you're literally at the point you can't have anybody else get hurt. I mean, you've got to stay healthy just from a sheer numbers aspect of it, and you can't beat yourself. You're not enough better than these other teams to beat yourself.
Well, you're definitely not, and I think health is a number one thing for sure, and just making sure that you're going to have to play almost perfect games, avoiding turnovers, avoiding 3-and-outs, controlling the clock. And when you were going to have to rely most likely on your offense throwing the ball.
Which you're capable of doing.
We are, and we've seen that. Jagger slung it around a ton this year, and he only has 1 interception.
And, I think the thing that's going to be difficult, Chance, also, when you talk about Post and maybe New Home being the other top ones in the district, both of those games you go on the road. You're at Post and you're at New Home. It's kind of a tough draw schedule-wise for the Antelopes. Obviously, both of those teams, they come to your house last year. So, I mean, it is what it is.
And you split.
Yeah, and you split. And, I mean, so it is what it is. But those are going to be hard ball games to win on the road.
Hard ball games, and you kind of have them split. You start district with one of them, and you end district with the other one. And so you're getting all that 2 weeks of preparation with New Home, and then you're going to kind of get the last stitch, the going in to like it could be a deciding who's number 1 or 2 seed.
You hope it is.
Post.
Yeah.
And it may not be. Post could run into some injuries, and they could kind of fall away and get beat a couple times.
Or you could as well.
Or exactly.
Yep.
And so I just think that, for me, Ty, and I know we talk predictions, and you're a realist.
and you're the homer. But hey, it's worked so far. Every game I've picked against us, we win.
And you're not picking against us.
No, I'm not.
You're just saying
I'm not.
From a perspective of how the cards may lie, the injuries, the struggles that we've dealt with. You got your 2 toughest games are on the road. I totally get it. I think for me, from what I've seen, I just think that there's kind of some mojo that we're rocking with right now.
And I agree.
And I think if our defense continues to play the way that they do, you kind of have a bend, don't break mentality. You get some turnovers. You make some stops in some games. We can score. And I think that's what's great. Even with Jagger having to stand back there, and we're giving him enough time to sling the ball around to the guys that are out there, I think that we're going to figure some things out and continue down that path, playing with some of the passion, kind of keeping that number 7 strong and maybe even number 11 strong, because you're losing some guys that you could count on. And I think using some of that emotion going into district and going into district hungry, I can see it. I can see Abernathy finish at the top, followed by New Home and Post. New Deal, Alton, Floydada. I think Alton and Floydada are staying home. New Deal gets back into the playoffs after they missed it for the first time in 20 years last year. And I can see it being that route. But I don't think, and this is to preface this, I think that Abernathy, New Home, and Post possibly are all going to at least drop a game in district.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know that I see anybody running the table, and I agree with you, Chance. And I will say this. If the Antelopes win this district, pardon my French, it'll be a hell of a story. It will be an absolute one for the season for the storybooks if Abernathy finds out a way to win this district. And before I give you my picks, I'm here for it. I want that to happen.
Me too.
And so put this on the bulletin board if you want to. I don't care. But and we'll see pretty quick. We'll see a week from Friday what New Home has to offer. I think I'm kind of so far. Maybe more so than you, Chance. I'm catching what New Home's throwing out there. I think New Home's got things going in the right direction. I think they're playing really well. Up until this afternoon, honestly, as I was thinking about it, I had Post winning the district. But I'm going to go with New Home at the top. I think the Leopards, followed by Post, and then Abernathy in that number 3 spot. And to be honest with you, my only reason for doing that is, again, Abernathy goes on the road to Post and to New Home. I'm not saying Abernathy can't win the district or won't win the district, but that's kind of how I see it happening. And then New Deal, 4th. You get New Deal at home, so you get a little bit of a breather there. And then Alton and Floydada. I have those 2 missing the playoffs in that order. But Chance, again, throw that Alton team in there. If they're able to knock off a Post, a New Home, or an Abernathy, that may not knock one of those teams out of the playoffs, but it could really affect seeding in district play.
Yeah, it can definitely affect seeding. And I'm there with you. And I love the fact that you even said it, Ty. Like, you want Abernathy to the top.
Absolutely.
You think, like you said, it would be a heck of a season if you rally that off and use that emotion and work that magic and continue to sustain that. But it also can be a tough go when you're playing your 2 hardest games on the road. Mm-hmm. So we're going to rally the troops.
I mean, I'm here for it. New Home next Friday. Let's go. Let's go get a win.
Let's go.
I like it, and I hope we
take it to the Leopards.
We do that. So Chan's only football this week is going to be tomorrow night, Thursday night, as Abernathy is going to have their first junior high home football games of the season. That's hard to believe. But they host the Ropes Eagles. They're the lone teams that get after it. So if you're not doing anything tomorrow night, go out to Antelope Stadium and check out those 7th and 8th graders as they're going to try and right the ship.
Yeah.
They've had a couple of tough weeks against Farwell and Freona. Got beat pretty handedly. And Chance, it's been a while since our junior high teams have lost that way. And so hopefully they can get back on track against Ropes tomorrow night.
For sure. And I know we talked to Coach Blasquez, off camera, and we mentioned, them playing in the off week, and he did mention you have that ability to do it. You can play that extra game instead of having your boys play 8 games, they can play 9, but also they look at it. We ran into some situations last year where you're scrambling to find games because some towns like a Floydada or even a Post weren't able to field a 7th and 8th grade team, and so just making sure that those boys get every opportunity to get out there on the field and play. And I think it's going to be a fun one, bringing those Ropes Eagles to town. So
absolutely. Go out and support the Ag Kids Saturday night at the Purple Banner Bash. And then our next broadcast will come your way a week from tonight, Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, right here in the playroom with Ty and Chance. We will preview the New Home Leopards and the Abernathy Antelopes. Maybe talk to a few players, possibly, if we can get that lined up as well, and take a look around AISD and our community. So should be fun. But Chance, I don't know what we're going to do on Friday night. We don't have any football to go to. So
there's some good games out there, though.
Yeah,
Shotwater Canadian.
I wish the game I'm most looking forward to, and I wish it was in Lubbock, and I would go. I probably wouldn't, because my wife would probably want me to stay home on the one Friday night that I have off. But Lubbock Cooper and Lubbock Cooper Liberty and Midland Greenwood playing in Midland. That is a top 10 in the state, number 9 versus number 6 matchup. I think that's going to be a doozy as well. So
yeah, I think it's going to be a good one for sure, and I think that there's going to be a lot of good games. It stinks when you don't play on Friday nights, but we'll be back at it here in a little over a week time.
Until then, good night.
God bless.
And go Lopes.